My name is Camille, 38 years old. Today I finally graduated from nursing school after 17 years of starts and stops. But as I stand here in my cap and gown, something is terribly wrong. The seats I reserved remain empty. No husband, no children, no parents. Just minutes ago my phone buzzed with a text. They chose a family barbecue over my graduation. The seats mock me as I clutch my diploma trying not to cry. Before I tell you what happened next and how it changed everything, where are you watching from? Have you ever been disappointed by those who should support you most? Like and subscribe if you've ever had to stand alone when you needed someone. I always dreamed of becoming a nurse ever since I was a little girl playing with toy stethoscopes and bandaging my dolls. That dream was put on hold when I married David at 21. We were young in love and thought we had it all figured out. Within a year, I was pregnant with our daughter Ella. 2 years later came Jack. My education took a backseat to diapers, midnight feedings, and the endless cycle of raising young children. David worked construction building other people's dream homes while we lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment. I took whatever jobs I could between childcare responsibilities, receptionist at a dental office, weekend shifts at a clothing store, even babysitting other people's children alongside my own to bring in extra money. Every time I mentioned going back to school, something would come up. Ella needed braces. Jack broke his arm falling from a tree. The car needed a new transmission. There was always something more important than my education. David came from a traditional family with strong values about a woman's place. His mother, Catherine, a homemaker who raised 4 children and never worked outside the home, made it clear she thought my ambitions were selfish. "Your children need their mother," she would say during Sunday dinners at her house, a weekly tradition I could never miss without hearing about it for months. "Camille just wants to contribute more to the family." David would occasionally defend me, but his support always felt half-hearted. Deep down, I think he agreed with his mother that my primary value was as a wife and mother. My own family offered little support. My parents divorced when I was 15. Dad remarried quickly, starting a new family that always felt like his priority. Mom moved 3 states away, calling on birthdays and Christmas, but otherwise distant both physically and emotionally. 6 years ago, when Jack started middle school, I enrolled in community college part-time. I took 1 or 2 classes each semester, studying late at night after the kids were asleep and the house was clean. Those early classes were hard. After being out of school for so long, I felt lost among younger students who seemed to absorb information effortlessly. But I persevered. I balanced home responsibilities, a part-time job, and my classes. I learned to function on 4 hours of sleep. I became an expert at writing papers with one hand while stirring dinner with the other. I studied flashcards during soccer practice and quiz material while folding laundry. 3 years ago, I was accepted into the nursing program. The workload doubled. Clinical rotations meant 12-hour shifts at the hospital. There were times I missed Ella's choir performances or Jack's baseball games because of exams I couldn't reschedule. "We understand, Mom," they would say, but the disappointment in their eyes told a different story. David stepped up occasionally, cooking spaghetti or ordering pizza when I had late classes. The kids learned to do their own laundry and pack their lunches. These small gestures felt like evidence they supported my dream even if they didn't fully understand it. As graduation approached, my excitement grew. I ordered extra tickets for the ceremony, making sure there would be seats not just for David and the kids, but also for my parents and even David's family if they wanted to come. I planned a small celebration at our house afterward. Nothing fancy, some catered food, a cake from our favorite bakery, and decorations in the school colors. I wanted to mark this accomplishment properly after so many years of sacrifice. "We're so proud of you, Mom," Jack said when I showed him my graduation invitation. Ella helped me shop for a dress to wear under my graduation gown. David promised to take the day off work. For once, it seemed like everyone recognized how important this was to me. I should have known better. My graduation day started at 5 in the morning. I was too excited to sleep, so I got up early to make a special breakfast for everyone. French toast with fresh strawberries, crispy bacon, and fresh squeezed orange juice. I set the table nicely, wanting to make the day feel special from the beginning. While the bacon sizzled in the pan, I sipped my coffee and pictured the day ahead. Walking across that stage, hearing my name called, moving my tassel from one side to the other, simple traditions that symbolized a massive achievement for me. The house was quiet as everyone else slept in. I didn't mind. I used the time to get myself ready, taking extra care with my hair and makeup. I ironed my nicest dress to wear under the graduation gown and laid out clothes for everyone else. A button-down shirt and khakis for David, a sundress for Ella, and nice jeans with a polo shirt for Jack. The ceremony wasn't until 1 in the afternoon, but I wanted everything prepared. Around 7, David stumbled into the kitchen, immediately reaching for his phone on the charger rather than greeting me. "Morning," I said brightly. "Breakfast is ready whenever you want it." He mumbled, scrolling through his phone with a frown. "Mom texted. She wants to know if we can come over around noon. She's firing up the grill for the first barbecue of the season." My heart sank slightly. "But the ceremony is at 1. We talked about this. You took the day off work." David looked up, seeming to register my dressed-up appearance for the first time. Right. Your graduation. I remember. I'll tell her we'll come after." I nodded, relieved, but feeling an unfamiliar flicker of doubt. David went back to his phone while I finished cooking, texting rapidly with someone. The kids wandered in around 8, drawn by the smell of food. Ella, 16 and perpetually attached to her phone, barely looked up as she filled her plate. Jack, 14, and in the midst of a growth spurt, piled his plate high. "You guys remember today is my graduation, right?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Course, Mom," Jack said through a mouthful of French toast. "What time do we have to leave?" "We should head out around 12 to get good seats and find parking." Ella groaned. "How long does it last? Madison invited me to go shopping." I tried not to show my hurt. "It's a few hours. This is important to me, Ella. I've been working toward this for years." She sighed dramatically in that way only teenagers can perfect. "I know, Mom. I'll be there." The morning passed quickly. I cleaned up breakfast, put the finishing touches on the food for our small celebration later, and started getting dressed. As I zipped up my dress, I noticed it was already 10:30 and no one else had started getting ready. David was watching a baseball game in the living room. Jack was playing video games. Ella was on FaceTime with a friend. "Guys, we need to leave in an hour and a half," I reminded them. "Please start getting ready." "Plenty of time," David said, not looking away from the game. His phone buzzed again and he checked it immediately. Something flashed across his face. Annoyance? Conflict? I couldn't quite tell. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," he said too quickly. "Mom's being persistent about this barbecue. All my siblings will be there." "We can go after the ceremony," I said firmly. "This is my day, David." I know," he said, but something in his tone didn't sound convincing. By 11:30, I was fully dressed in my graduation gown with my cap in hand, but no one else was ready. David was in the shower. Ella was still deciding what to wear. Jack couldn't find his good shoes. "We're going to be late," I said, anxiety rising. "Please hurry." "Maybe I should just meet you there," David called from the bathroom. "That way you can go early like you want and we won't have to rush." Warning bells rang in my head, but I pushed them aside. "No, I want us to arrive together. Please hurry." At 11:45, I was standing by the door, keys in hand, growing increasingly frustrated. David was dressed but on his phone again. The kids were bickering about something trivial. "We need to leave now," I insisted. David looked up, an odd expression on his face. "Listen, why don't you go ahead? Get your seat and everything set up. We'll be right behind you, I promise." "But I reserved seats for all of us to sit together," I protested. "And we'll be there," he assured me, not quite meeting my eyes. "I just need to finish getting the kids organized. We'll be 15 minutes behind you tops." Against my better judgment, I agreed. "Fine, but please don't be late. This matters to me." "We know, Mom," Ella said, finally appearing in her room doorway, still in her pajamas. "We'll be there." I hesitated at the door. "Promise me you'll leave in the next 15 minutes. "Promise," David said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "Now go. Enjoy your moment. We'll be there to cheer you on." I drove to the community college alone, trying to focus on my excitement rather than my unease. The parking lot was already filling with families taking photos with their graduates. I found my nursing school friends, many already surrounded by proud parents, spouses, and children. "Where's your family?" asked Brenda, a fellow graduate in her 50s who was celebrating with her husband and 3 adult children. "They're coming separately," I explained, checking my phone. No messages yet. I sent a quick text to David. I'm here. Where are you? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, getting ready now? Go ahead and line up. I joined the processional line, still checking my phone every few minutes. My texts became increasingly urgent. Are you on your way? Ceremony starting soon. Did you leave yet? David. Finally, as we were about to enter the auditorium, my phone buzzed. Running late, start without us. My heart sank, but I still believed they would make it. Maybe they'd miss the processional but be there for the actual diploma ceremony. I tucked my phone into my gown pocket and tried to focus on the achievement I'd worked so hard for. I walked into the auditorium with my classmates scanning the crowd for my family. The row where I'd placed reserved signs remained conspicuously empty. My stomach knotted as I took my seat, still glancing repeatedly at the entrance doors. Throughout the opening speeches, I kept looking back, expecting to see them slip in late. But the doors remained closed. The seat next to me was taken by Amy, a classmate who noticed my distress. No one showed, she whispered sympathetically. I shook my head, fighting tears. While pretending to adjust my cap, I snuck my phone out and texted David again. Where are you? They're almost at the nursing graduates. The response came quickly this time. Sorry, at Catherine's barbecue, lost track of time. My blood ran cold. Lost track of time. They weren't running late. They weren't coming at all. They had chosen a barbecue over one of the most important days of my life. As if to confirm my worst fears, a notification from Instagram popped up. Someone had tagged Ella in a photo. With shaking hands, I opened it to see my daughter in a swimsuit by my mother-in-law's pool, laughing with her cousins. The timestamp showed it was posted just minutes ago. I scrolled through more photos: Jack playing basketball with his uncles, David manning the grill with his father, my entire family enjoying themselves at a barbecue while I sat alone at my graduation. The worst part, I recognized faces of friends I'd invited to my graduation among the barbecue guests. People who had told me they couldn't make it because of prior commitments were apparently free to attend my mother-in-law's last-minute barbecue. The dean began calling nursing graduates to the stage. I barely registered my own name when it was called. I walked across that stage, accepted my diploma, and moved my tassel with no one to witness it. No cheers, no applause, just polite clapping from strangers. After the ceremony, I stood awkwardly among classmates, taking group photos with their families. Amy invited me to join her family photos, a kindness that nearly broke me. Her mother hugged me and said, "We're so proud of all of you graduates." And I had to excuse myself to the bathroom before I started sobbing in front of everyone. Locked in a bathroom stall, I called David, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I called Ella, Jack, my mother-in-law. No one answered. The message was clear: I wasn't important enough to interrupt their fun. I sat in my car in this parking lot, still in my graduation gown, and cried until I couldn't breathe. 17 years of work, countless sacrifices, thousands of hours studying while everyone slept, all to cross that stage alone because my family chose a barbecue. The drive home felt endless. I rehearsed what I would say when I confronted them. I considered alternatives. Maybe there had been an emergency. Perhaps Catherine had fallen ill and they were at the hospital. Not a barbecue, but the social media photos told the truth. I arrived home to an empty house, no signs of the celebration I had planned. The food I'd prepared sat untouched in the refrigerator. The congratulatory banner I'd hoped David would hang remained folded on the counter. On the kitchen table was a hastily scribbled note. At Mom's for barbecue. Come join when you're done. David. Come join when you're done. As if my graduation were an errand I was running. As if the celebration I'd planned meant nothing. I changed out of my graduation gown, the special dress underneath, now feeling ridiculous. I stared at my diploma, the culmination of so much work and sacrifice, and felt nothing but emptiness. My phone rang. David, finally. I answered, not trusting myself to speak first. Hey, he said casually. You done with the ceremony? Yes. I managed my voice tight with anger and hurt. Great. Why don't you come to Mom's? Everyone's here. The weather's perfect. Everyone's there instead of at my graduation, I said flatly. A pause. Look, Mom planned this weeks ago. The kids really wanted to swim, and my siblings are all here. We would have been bored sitting through all those names anyway. You got your diploma right, that's what matters. Something inside me snapped. Without another word, I hung up, grabbed my keys, and drove to my mother-in-law's house. I arrived at Catherine's house still wearing my graduation cap. I'd put it back on purposely before leaving home, a visual reminder of what they'd all missed. The sound of laughter and music greeted me as I walked around to the backyard gate. No one noticed me at first. The scene was exactly as the photos had shown, a perfect family gathering. David at the grill with his father, Jack playing basketball with his uncles, Ella lounging by the pool with her cousins, Catherine holding court at the patio table with her daughters and daughters-in-law. My mother-in-law spotted me first, her smile faltering slightly. "Camille, you made it. Congratulations on your community college thing." The way she said community college dripped with condescension, making it clear how little she thought of my achievement. The conversation around the table quieted as others noticed me. "It was my nursing school graduation," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm a registered nurse now." "Well, isn't that nice?" Catherine said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "David, Camille's here. Get her a plate." David looked up from the grill, a flicker of guilt crossing his face before he masked it with an overly bright smile. "Hey, congratulations. Want a burger?" I stared at him incredulously. "A burger? That's what you have to say to me right now." People were beginning to stare. Ella and Jack approached cautiously, both looking uncomfortable but not particularly remorseful. "Congrats, Mom," Jack said, giving me an awkward side hug. "Sorry we missed it," Ella added, not meeting my eyes. "Grandma really wanted us here in the pool." "The pool," I repeated numbly. "You missed my graduation for a swimming pool." David walked over, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Let's not make a scene," he murmured. "Everyone's having a good time." "Everyone except me," I replied. "Why did Catherine schedule this barbecue today of all days?" A silence fell over the gathering. Catherine cleared her throat. "This is our annual Memorial Day weekend barbecue. We have it every year." "Memorial Day is next weekend," I pointed out, feeling my anger rising. "You scheduled this specifically today. My graduation date has been on the family calendar for months." Catherine's face hardened. "Well, the forecast showed better weather for today. And really, Camille, it's just a community college graduation. It's not like it's a real university." Gasps from a few guests told me even they recognized she'd gone too far. David winced but said nothing to defend me. "Mom," his sister Jennifer admonished, "that's not fair." "It's true, though," Catherine continued, seemingly emboldened. "Camille has been taking these little classes for years now. It's more of a hobby than a real education." The word hobby hit me like a physical blow. A hobby. As if I hadn't sacrificed sleep, family time, and personal care. As if I hadn't worked myself to exhaustion balancing clinical rotations, coursework, family responsibilities, and part-time jobs. "A hobby," I repeated, my voice cracking. "Is that what you all think? That what I've been working toward is just a hobby?" I looked at David, silently pleading for him to contradict his mother. He shifted uncomfortably. "It's not that it's not important," he began weakly. "But you know how Mom feels about family traditions." "This isn't a tradition," I exclaimed. "Memorial Day is next weekend. She scheduled this deliberately to conflict with my graduation." Catherine sniffed. "The children wanted to swim. The weather was better today. Not everything revolves around your little accomplishments, Camille." I felt tears threatening but refused to cry in front of this woman. Instead, I turned to my children. "Did you want to miss my graduation? Did you ask to come here instead?" Ella and Jack exchanged guilty glances. "Grandma said you wouldn't mind," Jack said quietly. "She said graduation ceremonies are boring anyway." "And we were going to celebrate with you after," Ella added. "Grandma said this way we could have fun here and still celebrate with you later." Each word was another knife in my heart. Not only had my mother-in-law deliberately sabotaged my graduation, she'd manipulated my children into thinking I wouldn't care. I turned back to David, who still hadn't properly defended me. "And what's your excuse?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable with all the attention. "Mom said she needed help setting up. Then the kids were having fun and it just seemed easier to stay. Easier? I echoed. Easier than supporting your wife. Easier than witnessing the culmination of 17 years of work and sacrifice. You're being dramatic, Catherine interjected. It's just a piece of paper. Something inside me broke. Tears streamed down my face as I looked around at the family gathering. I have supported all of you through everything. I've been at every baseball game, every choir concert, every family dinner, every holiday. I've put my dreams on hold for years to be there for all of you. The one time I asked you all to be there for me, and this is what I get. The party had gone completely silent. Some guests looked embarrassed, others uncomfortable. David's brother Tony and his wife Maria looked genuinely distressed for me, but David himself just looked annoyed at the disruption I was causing. "Can we talk about this at home?" he asked in a low voice. "You're making a scene." A scene? I laughed bitterly. Yes, how inconsiderate of me to be upset that my entire family skipped my graduation for a barbecue. I took off my graduation cap and looked at it for a long moment. Then I placed it on the patio table in front of Catherine. "I hope the burgers were worth it," I said quietly. Then turned and walked away, ignoring David calling my name. I got in my car and drove with no particular destination in mind. I just needed to be away from all of them. As I stopped at a red light, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. I almost ignored it, assuming it was David with some pathetic excuse. But the name on the screen caught my attention. Dr. Henderson, my nursing program director. "Camille, I was disappointed not to meet your family today. You were our top student and deserved a proper celebration. I've recommended you for the prestigious training program at Northwest Memorial in Seattle. They were impressed with your clinical evaluations and have offered an immediate position with relocation assistance. The program starts in 3 weeks. Call me if you're interested. This could be a fresh start." I read the message 3 times, not quite believing what I was seeing. Northwest Memorial was one of the top hospitals in the country. Their specialized training program was extremely competitive, accepting only a handful of new graduates each year. And they wanted me. In Seattle. 3,000 miles away from the family that couldn't bother to attend my graduation. I pulled into a park and sat there staring at the message possibilities suddenly unfolding before me. I'd never considered leaving. Despite everything, I'd always defined myself as David's wife, Ella, and Jack's mother. My identity was tied to them, to this town, to the life we'd built. But now, sitting alone in my car, on what should have been one of the happiest days of my life, I wondered, who was I beyond those roles? What did I want for myself? When I finally drove home, the house was still empty. No one had bothered to come check on me. A quick check of social media showed the barbecue was still going strong now, with evening fire pit photos appearing in my feed. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and researched Seattle. The cost of living was higher, but so were nursing salaries. The hospital offered subsidized housing for new staff. The city was vibrant, diverse, with mountains and ocean both within reach. I thought about my marriage, really thought about it for perhaps the first time in years. David and I had grown distant. We functioned more as roommates and co-parenting partners than as husband and wife. When was the last time he'd shown genuine interest in my dreams? When was the last time he'd defended me against his mother's subtle put-downs? Over the next week, I moved through my days in a fog. David had apologized perfunctorily the night of the barbecue, clearly expecting the matter to be dropped after a token, "I'm sorry." The kids had been somewhat more sincere, but still didn't seem to grasp the magnitude of what they'd done. No one asked about my graduation photos. No one suggested we have the celebration I'd planned. Life simply went on as if nothing had happened. I met with Dr. Henderson to discuss the Seattle opportunity. "They specifically asked for you," she told me, beaming with pride. "Your clinical supervisors were unanimously impressed. They see leadership potential in you, Camille." Leadership potential. The words echoed in my head. No one in my family had ever used such words to describe me. I reached out to an old college friend, Sandra, who had moved to Seattle years ago. She was thrilled at the possibility of me joining her there. "You can stay with me until you find your own place," she offered. "Seattle would be lucky to have you." I contacted a lawyer to understand my options. If I took this job, what would it mean for my marriage, for custody of my children. The answers were complicated but not impossible. The more I researched, the more I found myself leaning toward accepting. This wasn't just about the barbecue. That was simply the moment when the scales fell from my eyes, allowing me to see clearly what I'd been ignoring for years. I had made myself small to fit into the space my family allowed me. I had compromised my dreams to support theirs. I had accepted being taken for granted as the natural order of things. No more. 2 weeks after my graduation, I called a family meeting. I've accepted a position at Northwest Memorial Hospital in Seattle, I announced without preamble, placing the official offer letter on the kitchen table. I start in 10 days. David, Ella, and Jack stared at me in stunned silence. I'd gathered them together under the pretense of discussing summer vacation plans. Now they sat frozen, processing my words. David recovered first. "What are you talking about? You can't move to Seattle." "I can, and I am," I replied calmly. "Northwest Memorial has offered me a position in their advanced training program. It's an extraordinary opportunity." "But what about us?" Jack asked, his voice small. I softened slightly. "That's what we need to discuss. I'd like all of you to come with me. David, there's plenty of construction work in Seattle. Ella and Jack, the schools there are excellent. We could start fresh." "Start fresh?" David's voice rose. "Our entire life is here. My job, the kids' schools, our house, my family is here." "Yes, your family," I said quietly. "The same family that chose a barbecue over my graduation." David flushed. "Are you still on about that?" "It was weeks ago. I said I was sorry." "It's not just about the barbecue," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "That was simply when I finally saw clearly what's been happening for years. I have consistently put everyone else's needs before my own. I have supported all of you in everything you've done. But when it was my turn, none of you showed up for me." "That's not fair," Ella protested. "We support you." "Do you?" I asked gently. "When was the last time any of you asked about my classes, or offered to help around the house so I could study, or showed any real interest in my career goals?" The silence that followed was telling. "I've spent 17 years working toward this degree," I continued. 17 years of juggling your needs, household responsibilities, part-time jobs, and my education. I did it all without complaint because I love you. But I realized something after my graduation. I deserve better than what I've been getting from this family." "So you're just going to abandon us?" David's voice was incredulous, angry. "I'm not abandoning anyone," I corrected him. "I'm inviting you to come with me, but I'm going either way." That statement hung in the air between us. I watched them process it, saw the moment when they realized I was serious. "You can't take my kids across the country," David said, his tone shifting to threatening. "They're our kids," I corrected. "And they're old enough that the courts would consider their preferences. Ella will be 17 soon, Jack is 14. I'm not trying to separate them from you, David. I want us to go as a family." "To Seattle," he repeated as if the word itself was offensive. "Away from everyone we know, everything we've built." "Everything you've built," I countered. "What have I built here, David? A life where my achievements are considered hobbies, where my family can't spare 3 hours to watch me graduate after 17 years of work, where your mother's last-minute barbecue takes precedence over one of the most important days of my life." The front door opened, and as if summoned by our discussion, Catherine walked in without knocking. She did this regularly, treating our home as an extension of her own. "I brought leftover pasta salad from dinner," she announced, then stopped short when she saw our serious faces. "What's going on?" "Camille's threatening to move to Seattle," David said immediately, like a child running to his mother. Catherine's eyes widened. "Don't be ridiculous, Camille. Your family is here." "Yes, my family," I said, standing up straight. "The family that couldn't be bothered to attend my graduation because you scheduled a barbecue on the same day." Catherine waved a dismissive hand. "Are you still upset about that? It was just a community college ceremony. So many names, so boring for the children." "It wasn't boring to me," I said firmly. "It represented 17 years of hard work." "Well, you have your little piece of paper now," she said condescendingly. "Time to focus back on your family." "That's exactly what I'm doing," I replied. I'm focusing on what's best for me and my family. I've been offered an exceptional opportunity in Seattle and I'm taking it. Catherine looked to David, clearly expecting him to put me in my place. When he remained silent, looking conflicted, she took matters into her own hands. This is absurd. You can't uproot your family for a job. Your place is here supporting David and taking care of your children. Something in me snapped. After years of biting my tongue, of accepting her subtle and not so subtle criticisms, I'd had enough. My place is wherever I decide it is. I said, my voice steel. I've supported David and taken care of my children for 17 years while also pursuing my education. I've proven I can do both. Now I'm going to continue doing both, but in a place where I'm valued professionally. This is about the barbecue, isn't it? Catherine sniffed. You're punishing everyone because of one little schedule conflict. It wasn't a conflict, I said evenly. You deliberately scheduled a barbecue on the day of my graduation, a date that had been on the family calendar for months. You intentionally created a situation where my family had to choose and they chose your barbecue. Catherine's face flushed. The weather was better last weekend. This isn't about the weather and we both know it, I replied. This is about you never accepting me, never respecting me, and deliberately undermining me at every opportunity. And it's about David letting you do it. David finally found his voice. Mom, maybe you should go. Catherine looked shocked. You're taking her side. I'm not taking sides, David said, though his tone lacked conviction. But this is between Camille and me. We need to discuss this as a family. Catherine huffed but gathered her purse. At the door, she turned back. Think about what you're doing, Camille. You'll destroy this family with your selfishness. After she left, a heavy silence fell over the kitchen. Ella was the first to break it. Would Seattle be permanent? She asked hesitantly. The training program is for 2 years, I explained. After that, we could reevaluate. Jack looked thoughtful. I Googled Seattle schools while you were talking. They have really good STEM programs. I smiled at him, feeling a small spark of hope. They do. And the hospital is near several excellent schools. David was staring at the offer letter, his expression unreadable. The salary is good, he admitted grudgingly. Better than I'd make here, I confirmed. And they're offering relocation assistance and temporary housing until we find a place. I'd have to find a new job, he said, but it wasn't an outright refusal. Construction is booming in Seattle, I said. With your experience, you'd likely find something quickly. Ella looked between us. Are you guys getting divorced? The question hung in the air. I looked at David. That's not my preference, I said carefully. I'd like us to make this move together as a family. But if David chooses not to come, then yes, we'd need to discuss separation. You'd really leave me? David asked, sounding genuinely surprised. I'd really pursue this opportunity, I corrected. Whether that means leaving you depends on your choices, not mine. Over the next week, our house became a battleground of emotions. David cycled between anger bargaining and sullen silence. Ella researched Seattle schools and seemed increasingly interested, especially after learning about their strong arts programs. Jack was the most openly enthusiastic, already making lists of Seattle attractions he wanted to visit. I began sorting through our possessions, deciding what to take and what to leave. The process was therapeutic, forcing me to evaluate what was truly important. Old birthday cards from my in-laws recycled, photos of family gatherings where I'd felt excluded stored away, my nursing school textbooks and notes carefully packed. David watched my methodical preparation with growing unease. You're really doing this, he said one evening, finding me organizing my closet. Yes, I replied simply. The hospital needs my answer by tomorrow. And if I say I won't go, I looked at him directly. Then I'll go without you. I'll file for separation before I leave with a custody arrangement that allows the kids to spend school years with me and summers with you if that's what they choose. He sat heavily on the bed. When did you become so determined? I've always been determined, I said quietly. That's how I earned my degree while raising a family. The difference is that now I'm putting that determination toward what I need, not just what everyone else needs. 2 days before my scheduled departure, David made a last attempt at reconciliation. He came home with flowers and my favorite takeout. "I've been thinking," he said as we ate dinner the kids at friends' houses for the evening. "Maybe we could compromise. What if you found a nursing job here at County Hospital? You could still use your degree but stay close to family." I considered his words carefully. "That's not a compromise, David. That's me giving up a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to maintain the status quo. A status quo where your mother comes first, my career comes last, and you never have to leave your comfort zone." "That's not fair," he protested. "I'm trying here." "Are you?" I asked. "Because it seems like you're trying to get what you want while making a token gesture toward what I want." "What about what the kids want? Have you asked them? Really asked them without pushing your preference?" I challenged. "Because Ella has been researching art schools in Seattle, and Jack has already joined online forums for Seattle teens interested in science." David looked stunned. "They want to go. They're excited about the possibilities," I said. "They're seeing this as an adventure, not a punishment." He was quiet for a long time. "And us, our marriage." I reached across the table and took his hand. "That depends on whether you're willing to put our family first for once instead of your extended family. Whether you're willing to support my dreams the way I've supported yours. Whether you can see that this move could be good for all of us, not just me." The night before my departure, I finished packing the last of my suitcases. The kids were packed too, having decided they wanted to come with me, at least initially. David had still not given me a definitive answer about whether he would join us. As I zipped the final bag, David appeared in the doorway of our bedroom. "I called a contractor friend in Seattle," he said quietly. "He says they're looking for experienced site managers. I could start in 3 weeks if I wanted." I looked up, hardly daring to hope. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I'll try," he said, his voice rough with emotion. 3 months. We'll give Seattle 3 months. If it doesn't work out, we reconsider." It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was something. A willingness to try. A step toward putting our immediate family first. "Thank you," I said simply. As I fell asleep that night, I realized I felt something I hadn't felt in years, hopeful. Whatever happened with David, whatever happened in Seattle, I had stood up for myself. I had refused to be diminished. I had remembered my own worth. That alone was worth celebrating. Seattle welcomed us with surprising sunshine, a stark contrast to the stormy confrontations we'd left behind. Sandra met us at the airport, her warm hug a reminder of how long it had been since I'd had a friend who was truly mine, not just an extension of David's social circle or a fellow school parent. "Welcome to your new beginning," she whispered in my ear. The hospital provided temporary housing in a furnished apartment near the medical center. It was small, but modern, with big windows overlooking the city and distant mountains. The kids claimed their rooms immediately, Ella already planning how to decorate hers, Jack investigating the building's amenities. David was quiet during the move in observing rather than participating. I could see him mentally calculating the distance from everything familiar, the strangeness of this new urban environment so different from our suburban hometown. My first day at Northwest Memorial confirmed I'd made the right professional choice. The hospital was cutting edge, the training program rigorous and prestigious. My supervisor, Dr. Martinez, introduced me to advanced techniques I'd only read about in journals. "We're excited to have you, Camille," she said during orientation. "Your recommendations were exceptional, Doctor. Henderson spoke particularly highly of your clinical skills and leadership potential." Leadership potential. Again, those words that no one in my family had ever used to describe me. Here in this new environment, I was seen differently. My capabilities were recognized, my contributions valued. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of adjustment. The kids enrolled in their new schools, initially nervous but quickly making friends. Seattle's diverse, progressive environment seemed to suit them both. Ella joined the school's arts collective. Jack found a robotics club that met his intellectual needs better than his old school had. David struggled the most. He went to his job interview and was offered the position, but I could tell his heart wasn't in it. He spent evenings on the phone with his family back home, his mother in particular. "Mom's not doing well with us gone," he told me one night. "She says it feels like we abandoned them." "We didn't abandon anyone," I reminded him gently. We moved for a career opportunity like thousands of families do every year. It's different for us, he insisted. My family has always stayed close. I bit back my first response, which was to point out that staying close had meant living under his mother's influence and authority. Instead, I said, "Give it time, David. Change is hard for everyone." As the weeks passed, I found myself flourishing. The hospital environment was challenging but rewarding. I made friends among my fellow nurses, went out for occasional happy hours, joined a hiking group that explored the nearby mountains on weekends. Phone calls with the children's schools brought positive reports. Both were adapting well academically and socially. When I mentioned this to David, hoping to emphasize the positive aspects of our move, he seemed almost disappointed. "So they don't miss home at all?" he asked. "They miss certain things," I clarified. "But they're also excited about the new opportunities here." A breakthrough came about 2 months into our Seattle experiment. Ella had an art show at school, a showcase of work from her new digital media class. Both David and I attended, standing proudly as she explained her project to visitors. Afterward, walking back to the car, David said unexpectedly, "She wouldn't have had this opportunity back home. The schools there don't have programs like this." "No," I agreed carefully. "They don't." He was quiet for a moment, then added, "Jack seems happier too, more engaged with school." "The science curriculum here is stronger," I said. "It challenges him." David nodded thoughtfully. Later that night, I overheard him on the phone with his brother Tony, describing Ella's art show with genuine pride. It was the first time he'd spoken positively about our new life to anyone back home. Small shifts continued. David started bringing home information about local hiking trails, weekend farmers markets, neighborhood events. He mentioned coworkers he was getting to know. He complained less about Seattle traffic and rain. One Sunday morning, about 4 months after our move, I realized something. Catherine hadn't called with her usual Sunday check-in. When I mentioned this to David, he looked slightly embarrassed. "I told her to give us some space," he admitted. "I said we needed time to establish our own family traditions here." I was stunned. In 17 years of marriage, I had never heard David set boundaries with his mother. "What brought that on?" I asked carefully. He was quiet for a moment. "Something Jack said. He mentioned that Sunday mornings are his favorite now because we do things together as just our family instead of always going to my parents' house." I smiled, remembering the previous Sunday when we'd explored Pike Place Market, then taken a ferry to Bainbridge Island. It had been a perfect day, just the four of us. "I never realized how much our life revolved around my extended family until we left," David continued. "It's different here. Better in some ways." It wasn't a complete endorsement of our move, but it was progress. Significant progress. 6 months into our Seattle life, I received a promotion at the hospital. My supervisors praised my quick learning and natural leadership abilities. The new position came with a substantial raise and more responsibility. When I shared the news with David, his reaction surprised me. Instead of his usual non-committal response to my professional achievements, he suggested we go out to celebrate. "I'm proud of you," he said over dinner at a nice restaurant overlooking Puget Sound. "You're really thriving here." "Thank you," I said, touched by his sincere support. "That means a lot to me." "I've been thinking," he continued, swirling the wine in his glass. "Our 3-month trial period is long past." My heart skipped. Was this it? Was he going to say he couldn't do it anymore, that he wanted to go back? "I think we should look at buying a house here," he said instead. "The apartment was fine for temporary, but if we're staying, we should put down roots." I nearly dropped my fork. "You want to stay permanently?" He nodded slowly. "The kids are happy. You're excelling at work. Even I have to admit the job opportunities here are better than back home." He reached across the table for my hand. "And most importantly, we're building something here that's just ours. Our family on our terms." Tears pricked my eyes. "What about your parents? Your siblings?" "They'll always be important," he said. "But I've realized something these past months. When we lived there, they were the center of our family universe. You and the kids and I were just satellites orbiting around my parents. Here, we're our own center. It's healthier." I squeezed his hand, too emotional to speak. That summer, Ella decided to spend her break exploring Seattle's art scene through a teen program at the local museum. Jack joined a science camp at the university. David and I both took vacation time using it to explore the Pacific Northwest together, in a way we hadn't done as a couple in years. One evening, as we sat on the deck of our newly purchased house watching the sunset over distant mountains, my phone buzzed with a familiar name, Dr. Henderson, my former program director. "Just checking in on my star graduate," she said when I answered. "How's Seattle treating you?" "Wonderfully," I replied honestly. "The hospital is everything you said it would be. The family has adjusted better than I could have hoped. We just bought a house." "I'm so glad," she said warmly. "When I saw you sitting alone at graduation, my heart broke for you. You deserved better." "That day was difficult," I acknowledged, but in retrospect it was also a gift. It forced me to see clearly what I couldn't or wouldn't see before. "Sometimes our most painful moments become our most transformative," she agreed. After we hung up, David joined me on the deck, handing me a glass of wine. "Who was that Dr. Henderson?" I explained. "The professor who recommended me for this position." He nodded thoughtfully. "We owe her a debt of gratitude then." "We do. If not for her, you might not have had this opportunity. We might still be stuck in our old patterns." He looked out at the view, then back at me. "I wouldn't want to go back to that now." "Neither would I admitted. Later that evening, I received a text from my daughter. "Mom, thanks for bringing us to Seattle. I know it was hard to stand up to everyone, but I'm really glad you did. I'm proud of you." Those words, "I'm proud of you," from my daughter who once couldn't be bothered to attend my graduation, meant everything. The next day, I received a surprising email from my mother-in-law. Catherine rarely communicated with me directly, preferring to go through David. "Camille," it read, "I've been reflecting on our last interactions before you moved. I realize now that my behavior regarding your graduation was inexcusable. While I'm still adjusting to having my son and grandchildren so far away, I can see that this move has been positive for your family. David sounds happier than he has in years. I hope someday you can forgive my interference. Catherine." It wasn't a full apology, but from a woman who had never admitted wrongdoing in all the years I'd known her, it was remarkable. I showed the email to David, who seemed as surprised as I was. "Mom never apologizes," he said, reading it twice. "People can change," I replied, "when they're given reason to." That night, as I lay in bed reflecting on how far we'd come, I thought about that terrible graduation day when I sat alone watching other families celebrate together. At the time, it had felt like the worst day of my life. Now I recognized it as the catalyst for change, the moment when I finally understood my own worth. Standing alone that day had ultimately given me the strength to stand up for myself. The empty seats at my graduation had created space for a completely new life. The pain of that day had transformed into the determination that brought me here to this new beginning. Sometimes the deepest wounds become our greatest sources of power when we refuse to be defined by them. Sometimes being let down by others forces us to stand up for ourselves. And sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something far better than we ever imagined possible. Have you ever had a moment when someone's absence or betrayal actually led you to a better path? Share your story in the comments below. If my journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that. Sometimes standing alone is the first step toward finding your true strength. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth isn't determined by who shows up for you, but by how you show up for yourself.